So we are going to keep this to about 40 minutes or so today. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in. Our speaker today is Jordan Gonzalez. He is a 2012 UNK graduate, and he serves as the Director of Alumni Engagement for the University of Nebraska Alumni Association in Lincoln. And I know I said the word Lincoln, but don't worry, he bleeds Loper blue. It's been proven. I've seen it. So Jordan, I'm going to turn it over to you, and the floor is yours.
Okay, great. So this will come as a see how well I've learned to adapt and share my screen, or if not, hopefully I don't botch anything here. So hopefully, thumbs up real quick. Can everyone see this screen? Is it up? And can everyone? Okay, great. Thank you so much. Well, Trish, thank you again for inviting me to be part of this. And I know Ashley Alberry and Andy Greer are kind of helping with this event. Thankful that I knew both of them as well, whether it was during my time at UNK or right after. But so I'm really excited just to kind of network and catch up really with a lot of folks here. I see Morgan's also on here, Lauren, which I'm able to work with as well. So I'm excited for this group this afternoon. Although I think the event itself was kind of focused on growing and maintaining your professional network during COVID, a lot of the individuals that I'm seeing here on this call, I mean, we're all pretty experienced, I think, or at least I'm making the assumption that I think a lot of us are very well experienced in networking and how to grow and maintain a network. I hate using the term the new normal because this year has been very unique and has not been anything that we've ever experienced. And so while I'll talk a little bit about that, I think what I'm really going to focus on in my brief time for my presentation is just maybe some things that I've learned about how to adapt in terms of how I approach networking during COVID and kind of like what's next in terms of 2021. Since thankfully there is some light at the tunnel, we are, hearing great positive news that hopefully by this weekend, a lot of our institutions here in Nebraska will have some access to a vaccine. So hopefully that will kind of be the parameters of my talk. But before I get too into that, I kind of wanted to share just a little bit about who I am and why you should care about what I say and give you a little bit of context. So as Trish said, my name is Jordan Gonzalez. I was born and raised in a small village called Morrill, Nebraska, out in the panhandle of Nebraska. You go 6 more miles west, you're in Wyoming, and really enjoyed growing up in Morrill. It was a great community, was really active in elementary, middle, and high school, and really enjoyed that experience. I think one thing that I really appreciated was I worked on the farm during my formative years with my grandpa who owned a farm. And that taught me a lot about hard work ethic and kind of being ambitious and going after and pursuing some of those goals. My grandpa was also a social butterfly. He knew everyone in the community by their first and last name, knew what was going on, knew the gossip. And so I think that really kind of boiled and kind of influenced me to be a social butterfly and to be a big extrovert. While at Morrill, I was able to be elected as student body president, which I thought was a great experience. It kind of got my toes wet in terms of becoming an organizational leader and enjoying working and reaching out with others. My big platform there was try to get gym shorts to be worn in classrooms because that was against the dress code. We succeeded and it was a big win. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to run for governor next. It was a high moment for me, but that was a really cool experience. After graduating from Morrill, I was able to go on a tour of UNK and just fell in love with the place, really enjoyed it. And shortly after deciding I would attend UNK, I was also recruited by the Sigma Phi Epsilon fraternity, which I was able to join and not only knew Andy as a brother through SIGEP, but we actually served in a pretty pivotal leadership roles in SIGEP together at the same time. It was one of the best experiences I had, and it really, I think, one, it exposed me to people with different thinkings and different philosophies, which I think is kind of the point of college, is to really not just, I think, make you tolerate others, but really listen and learn from others, which is going to be kind of a point in my talk here in a little bit. But I think that was just a really great experience because it taught me not just to enjoy college, but really enjoy the culture of college. It really made me appreciate just how special of a place UNK really is. And so while I really enjoyed my second senior year, um, I think my experience at SIGEP was really transformative. Um, I took a victory lap, and in that victory lap, I also was able to run for student body president and really enjoyed that gig as well. Two big things that really encouraged me to run for that position is one, we wanted to kind of enhance the dining experience that we had, and we were able to get a new dining center, which we were really appreciative for. And then kind of my first segue into, I don't know if it's really alumni relations, but really philanthropy and giving back was, at that point, we were looking at passing a new health center and they'd done some fundraising for it, but there were still some funds needed. And so I remember meeting with Chancellor Doug Christensen, at that time, Barbara Johnson, and talking about a student investment fee. And so essentially, we would ask students, hey, would you be willing to pay a fee for this health center? We know you can't use it because it's not built yet, but really it's paying it forward. And we were able to get that pushed through as legislation, as a resolution, when I was a student body president. And I thought that was kind of a really cool experience, and my kind of first experience of paying it forward. And so that was really neat. It's kind of funny because I often get when I do presentations or network with folks, they say, that sounds like a wonderful experience. It sounds like you learned a lot when you were a student body president at UNK. And I said, it was a cool experience, yeah, but honestly, being a president of a fraternity, I think, was more of a trial by fire approach in leadership, because it's one thing to talk with a room of 25, outstanding student leaders on campus. It's quite another to try to cajole 60 or 70 young men. Hey, I know you want to close off third floor and turn it into a paintball war zone, but you can't do that. Or, hey, I know there's snow out and you want to take the tray to slide it, through the snow, through the first floor, but you cannot do that. That taught me a lot more about leadership. Since graduating from UNK, I've been able to work at the Nebraska Alumni Association in Lincoln. As Trish mentioned earlier, have been there since 2015. I received my master's degree from UNL and currently working on my PhD there as well. And then I think the last thing kind of about me is I'm a big Star Wars fan. You'll notice on the picture to the left, I'm in the Darth Vader costume there. You'll notice that the sleeves they don't fit super well. And that's because that photo, the year that was taken, that was year 3 of me wearing that costume. So I love Darth Vader so much and love that costume really so much. I wore it 3 years until I finally got enough grief from my brother that I said, okay, fine, I'll retire it. And I think that's kind of also when I retired my career as a trick-or-treater. But to the topic at hand, which again, I want to make sure that we're kind of being relevant on. So what is unique about my role is, as I mentioned earlier, I'm a big extrovert, and I'm part of this group called Lincoln YPG, which really does in-person networking and outreach events. How in the heck do you do events that are meant to be in person online? And I think that was the biggest struggle that we had as an organization with Lincoln YPG, is like, okay, this is who we are. Who we are is to create networking and outreach opportunities for folks in person. When COVID hit, we couldn't do that. And so honestly, the biggest struggle and the biggest growing pains that we've encountered, I think first and foremost, is we just did, okay, whatever we do, let's throw it at the wall and put it online and see if it works. Obviously it didn't. And the same thing goes with networking. Just because you're able to do it well in person doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to translate well and be of value to others online. And so I think that was kind of the big lesson that we learned. The other thing that really came about for me was this past year, it's been painful, difficult for many. It's also encouraged us to, I think, take on new habits or hobbies. So for example, I know a lot of folks maybe readjusted their thinking in terms of saying, well, maybe 2020 is more about appreciating what I have, opposed to what I wish I could have. Another, I think a lot of folks focus a lot more on their health. People, I think, focus more on religion. Others kind of did things like, they started cooking more elaborate entrees, or they started a garden for the first time. I was able to use some of the downtime also to read some additional books, which I think is very helpful in this context. And that one of them was this concept of a growth mindset, and how I can reinforce this in myself. And the growth mindset was essentially boiled down to this. And this is from Carol Dweck's book. Know that you should be less of a know-it-all and more of a learn-it-all. And in that learn-it-all, I think that the thing is to ask yourself, if it's not daily, maybe weekly, what am I learning about? So in my one-on-ones online, what am I learning about in terms of how I'm adjusting to COVID? If an event didn't work, or if the connection I reached out didn't connect back with me, why did that happen? Can I break that down and kind of figure out why? So if you do have time, these are two books that I read over the summer that I thought were of great value to me in terms of not just maintaining and growing a network during COVID, but also just personally and professionally, that I would really strongly recommend. The other thing I think that really focused me, or really 2020 forced me to do as a person who loves to network, is it was hard because I'm a person that I love to meet with people in person. I get energy from that. I mean, that's where I get my motivation and my energy, is meeting new people, hearing their stories, and learning new ideas and their experiences. Being able to try to adjust that online has been difficult, but it has been doable. And I think things that I would recommend that have worked for me, that maybe we can have a discussion of maybe what has worked and what hasn't, has been kind of really developing, like, okay, if I want to grow or maintain my network, what are my goals for doing so? Am I maybe looking for a job opportunity during this time of uncertainty? Maybe this is a time for growth. Am I just wanting to stay closer to people, since I'm working primarily from home and am seeing less people in person? So I think that was a big part of it. For me, it was, I wanted to rekindle some of those old connections, folks that I knew really well, didn't kind of stay in close communication or contact with them because they moved. They either moved to Colorado or DC or somewhere on the West Coast. And now everyone was online. So to me, I said, well, this is no excuse. Now's a great time to rekindle those connections. And I think the big thing that I learned in terms of an analogy was a network, and any type of network that you have, it's almost like, having a garden or living on a farm. You need to maintain it. So I just can't just reach out to Ashley Alberry and say, this is great, a great connection. So, I really appreciate you talking to me about Nano Nation. And then, so I plant the seed to that connection, and that's it. The important thing too is to water that connection, to maintain, to follow up, whether that is once a quarter, even once a year, just saying, hey, haven't spoken to you in a while. I hope you're doing well. Saw that you recently got promoted, or maybe just hope you have a great holiday season. Following up with folks is something that I've learned during COVID of follow-up does mean a lot to individuals, just because a lot of us are feeling the same thing in terms of, I can count on one hand how many times I've met with someone in person in 2020, which typically, I'm an extrovert where I love to meet with several people many times a day. So I think a lot of us are feeling kind of that, I don't want to say isolation, but we're definitely feeling that we're not being able to be as social creatures as some of us would like to be. Some other key takeaways, and then I think I'll kind of yield it over, was that in addition to an ongoing activity, networking obviously needs to be a transactional relationship in which don't always expect that you're going to benefit from that relationship. It's often a give and take. One thing that I think a lot of us can agree on is one thing that I've noticed in meeting with folks online, especially in the workplace, when we would do in-person meetings, if I was a little early, I'd be able to get to sit down and maybe talk with Morgan and be like, hey, how have you been? How's your family? Do you guys have any plans coming up this summer? Any like travel plans or just family plans whatsoever? We don't really do that a lot online. Usually it's very transactional of, okay, Jordan, here's your agenda item to get done. Lauren, here's your action item to get done. Anyone have any questions? If not, okay, have a great day, you know, and then you click the leave meeting button from your Zoom. We need to find a time to be able to have those conversations, whether it is using the chat that you have here on the side of your screen, to privately message folks and just see how they're doing. But I think that type of connection, that type of outreach really is the human element and the human aspect that I think it's those little things that allow us to maintain our connection with folks, but also strengthen our network with people we know, or maybe people we haven't spoken to in a long time. Obviously, I think FaceTime, Google Hangouts, those have also been great ways to interact with some of your close friends on a personal level as well. So I think keep that. The other thing I think I will finally acknowledge is if you have a LinkedIn account, this is a great time to update that. Not necessarily for looking for a job, but just connecting with folks. And if you don't have a LinkedIn account, I would strongly suggest forming one, just because, again, it's not necessarily that, oh, I need to get on LinkedIn to find a job. But I think a lot of folks are on LinkedIn because at this point, they're looking for connection. People are feeling isolated, or they're just, you know, thirsting to talk to someone and just meet someone different. And so I think be open if you get those messages on LinkedIn or other platforms. But I think now is a great time if you don't have a LinkedIn account to create one. I want to make sure we have ample time. So I think if you want to reach out and chat, here's my LinkedIn profile. I'm happy to reach out and connect with you. And before we get to groups, Trish, we had a fun question, and I want to know if we can go ahead and ask that question, because in me trying to hold myself accountable, when Trish and I were discussing about this event, one thing that we had discussed was when we were both on campus, what was our favorite building? Or I guess more to the point, what building would we identify as? So Trish has launched this poll, and I'd love to hear your responses in terms of, if you were a building on campus, what building do you think you would be? So go ahead and feel free to answer that poll. You'll notice Otto Olson's not on there.
That's right. Still trying to figure that out, Trish.
Sorry.
And but Greer can attest to this. I mean, I remember during the winters when I was commuting from URN to Copeland Hall, Otto Olson saved lives because you were able to go through that hallway, get warmed up before you had to go back into the elements. So although it wasn't the most beautiful and glamorous building on campus, it was one I think that was appreciated by a lot of undergrads and graduates, especially during the winter months.
We had nice billboards in there though for you to look at.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right, I'm going to end the poll here. Last second to vote.
I'm still mad that I didn't do my idea. Mason and I came up with, we were going to take a bucket of bouncy balls and just throw it down that hallway, because that was that whole, just to let it go for that like half a football field hallway. Never got a chance.
You got to come back before it comes down and do it.
Oh, it's not down yet? Okay. Doing it.
So it looks like the clear majority here, the winner by far was Calvin T. Ryan Library, which is pretty impressive. I mean, I would have said mine would have been the Union. So I think that shows that there are people who are far more academically inclined than I was in undergrad. But that's kind of the presentation I have. I'm looking more forward to, I think, our groups with Andy and Ashley being our leaders on that. So Trish, I'll go ahead and yield it to you. If there are questions, I'll be happy to answer any. But I think I'm more focused on the networking part now.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jordan. Like Jordan said, we're going to break everybody into a room. There'll be two rooms, one led by Ashley and one led by Andy. And you'll have about 12 minutes or so to introduce yourself, to everybody in the group. And then Ashley and Andy have some questions that they're going to ask you just to lead the discussion. And then when you come back, when I bring you back, have somebody designated to share one key takeaway that you think everybody here should hear from your discussion. So, okay, we will break everybody into their rooms. Here we go. There we go. There we go. Last one's in.
And then there were 3 or 4.
Or 4.
Oh. Ryan, do you want to go into a room?
I was going to ask. I pushed the wrong button because I'm so technologically advanced that it kicked me out of the Zoom there. But it's your call, Trish. If they're talking to each other, then I can bag out for now. And
No, if you want to go in, I think it'd be great for you. I'm going to assign you to a room.
okie doke, I'll be happy to do it.
All right.
And I'm going to try and click the right button this time.
Here we go. We'll give it a shot.
And I'm going to have to know how you did the poll. That was awesome. All right.
There he goes.
Ladies.
Okay, so Tony, tell me about what the MBA program is wanting.
They want to purchase their own, and they want to know where we purchased ours. So
Okay, so Heather, I gotta ask, what's your hometown? I gotta guess your mascot.
Wayne Blue Devils?
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, Wayne. Okay, yeah, I knew that.
Okay, thanks everybody. I hope you had good conversations in your rooms. Andy, who from your group is the person who's going to share the one key takeaway?
Well, my immediate thought was to go with Dean Teton because he had some great stuff. But I think Morgan, if you could share a little bit about, you were talking about in some of the smaller towns and things, how the technology almost had to evolve. I think that would be great.
Unmute, Morgan.
Sorry. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Morgan Christensen. I'm an attorney in Lincoln, Nebraska. And since March, everything, like everything else, has gone electronic, including court hearings. And see some of the small towns in Nebraska technology and do Zoom hearings, but they were really great on doing that. And Dean Teton said that it was great for the university because it got some of the Western towns and cities to get on board with some technology and classrooms online. And topics that were important to me prior to COVID-19 were telehealth, and that really got traction in March, and people now realize it's an important thing that we need to look at and deal with as far as rules and regulations. So while there were a lot of downsides to COVID and not being able to meet in person, efforts towards wanting things to go remote or electronic definitely got some traction and got a big push here in the last few months, which resulted in some good things.
Great. Ashley, who from your group?
I'm going to make it a combination of Jordan and I. We actually didn't select because we barely made it through our introductions. We had so much fun. So I would say one of our key takeaways was just really being appreciative for events like this when we don't have an environment that supports networking, given our current situation. So it was really kind of a bit of a catch-up session and a mascot discussion. And that was prompted by my friend Jordan. So I'll turn it over to him for any other key takeaways that you can think of.
I think we learned that there are too many people who come from Wayne, Nebraska, or Wayne, America, excuse me. Except Heather, we're glad for you and we appreciate you, but I don't know about all those other Wayne Americans. But no, I think going along with Ashley and what she said is just, it's been, I think, difficult. I mean, I think connecting with people has been easy. I mean, with FaceTime, Zoom and whatnot, but like genuinely connecting with people has been tough because it's easy for us to kind of get into that default of, okay, I'm online here. We're here to do, whatever the meeting is that we're here to do. So let's get that done. We'll see you later. And then we'll kind of focus on the next thing. And so I think trying to be intentional of how we're trying to be genuinely connecting with folks, I think is something that we had discussed because especially people who live alone, it's been a tough time just because, I mean, you can't go out and see people every day or have coffee with them or have dinner with them. And so events like this, where there's actually time to connect and have that genuine connection means a lot for us for this year, but also going into next year as well.
Great. Any other closing comments, Jordan?
No, I think this is great. I guess if you're giving me a platform here, one thing I would love is if UNK alumni could maybe do like a online trivia night that could like get groups of folks, like create teams, because I don't think my team would ever win, but I think that would be a riot to do. Not sure if that's possible or not, but I think what I do love is just opportunities to connect with other alums. And I know, like, I haven't been able to reach out with Roxanne, which congrats to you and looking forward to the addition of your new addition in your family and Morgan as well. But I really appreciate events like this because it allows us to kind of reconnect with folks because, again, a lot of what we've been doing has been very transactional. And so these events make it more, I think, kind of human for us and reminds us of, hey, there are people who are kind of experiencing something maybe similar to you that want to just hear how you're doing and are genuinely interested in the ideas that you have to discuss, whether those ideas are about, what mascot your high school was or other ideas that you have too. So I think those are kind of my concluding remarks and just thanking everyone for their time for joining this afternoon.
Thank you, Jordan. Let's give him a round of applause. Feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like to, or give him the golf clap.
Thanks, Jordan.
All right, Lucas, I'm gonna hand it over to you for a conclusion.
Well, I just want to thank everybody again for joining in. This is a new concept, as we've discussed, doing these kinds of things. I think it'll continue to be part of our repertoire, I guess you might say, as far as engagement of alumni. And I think the idea of doing younger alumni, and let's be clear, you're all young alumni. I'm not anymore by our own definition. So I'm just glad to be a part of it. But there are groups that I think we have an opportunity to engage more closely. And I think this is one of them, particularly in communities and regions around Lincoln, Omaha, even Kearney for that matter. But try to deepen connections. And so, if we can do something face-to-face, let's do that and integrate that with online stuff. But, I think by attending this, you get something out of it. Yes, we get something out of it. You make UNK stronger. You've got an interest in the campus and, your folks that pay attention to what goes on here. You can say nice things about it. You can encourage those students that you might know to look at UNK as an option. And I think just perpetuating that idea is really helpful to the institution. Your networks are really important. I think sometimes if I make a call to somebody and say, hey, would you come to this? They might blow me off. They're not going to blow you off. So if you can promote these things to your network and friends, we can grow it and that helps the university as well. So I just want to thank you for your interest, for your time and wish you happy holidays and hope that we can move on to a more normal life in 2021. So all the best to all of you.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. we'll let you get back to your work day, whatever that looks like today. And we appreciate you being here. And Lucas, don't rub it in that you're going golfing. But again, continue to be an advocate for your university and go Lopers.
Go Lopers.
See everybody.
Guys.
See everyone.
Hi, everybody.
Bye.